Good morning, everyone. Justin Trudeau is taking a few days off from his daily money giveaways, from out front of Rideau Cottage. And Andrew Scheer's under fire yesterday for not renouncing his U.S. citizenship. Here's a CTV News article about it. We're not going to watch that. We're going to see the interview with Evan Solomon. But here's a little comment that I thought was kind of funny. Liberals, don't accuse Theresa Tam of working for China. That's racist. Also, Liberals, Andrew Scheer has dual citizenship. Where do his loyalties lie? Actually, I believe that Ms. Tam, the question from Mr. Sloan was, where do Ms. Tam's loyalties lie with the WHO or China or Canada? And I mean, is it valid to call any criticism of Ms. Tam racism, but any criticism of Mr. Scheer's dual citizenship completely valid? And I mean, they're different, right? Should leaders of federal parties hold dual citizenship? Should MPs hold dual citizenship? I know there are a lot of people with a lot of strong beliefs on that. And I thought that having singular citizenship would be something that would be expected of MPs. But some people, especially in Canada, are born with citizenship, like legacy citizenship. My brother had citizenship bestowed on him because of the date that he was born, etc. And so it's more complicated than it first seems, right? But fundamentally, should the leader of the party, who could be a prime minister, have dual citizenship? Does that affect where your loyalties lie? Would renouncing that citizenship go far enough, or is like the United States is very clear on that it needs to be an American citizen to be the president? So, I mean, what do you think? Here's Evan Solomon and Andrew Scheer having a discussion about Andrew Scheer neglecting to follow through with renouncing his U.S. citizenship. Here we go.
Can you just give us an update of something that was an election issue, your dual citizenship? Have you continued your steps to renounce your U.S. citizenship?
After making the decision to step down, knowing that I won't be prime minister, I discontinued that process.
Oh, why did you discontinue it, out of interest?
Well, just for personal reasons, Evan.
You don't want to tell us why you discontinued it? When did you do that?
I'd have to go back and check.
Can you?
Those are some very good ways to not answer a question. Oh, just because, Evan, I have to go look. I don't know. I'm not sure when exactly. I don't know if it was April 10th or October 15th. I don't know when. Anyway, regardless, I think that it's interesting, the political hay being made, the distraction. Like, it's almost like we're watching a magician show, right? Look here, like, look at my hand over here, not the hand going into my pocket here, right? And that didn't work very well because neither of my hands were in the shot. But still, regardless, it seems like a distraction. Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Did you guys see the job numbers, Evan? Did you see the job numbers? Is that the question that you want to focus on CTV? Right? I mean, like, how are we going to hold these liberals to account? How are we going to get the economy started? How are we going to get things back to running to 80% or 100% with these recommendations that the health people are doing? How is the opposition going to play into that? Any of those questions come to mind? Hey, man, how's your U.S. citizenship? Right? I mean, like, if the caucus doesn't care and if the Canadian population doesn't care, is it up to the news to do that? I mean, I don't know. And is it a big deal? Might be. And for this, I had strong opinions, and then I thought about it a bit more, and I had less strong opinions, but I fundamentally think that it is not appropriate for the leader. And I thought this about the Green leader as well. When Elizabeth May, she was born in Connecticut, right? She grew up a United States citizen and came to Canada and got her Canadian citizenship, but still, right? I think that there is merit to having people who were born in Canada in the leadership and governing the direction of the country, particularly now. But it seems that I am in the minority. So, I mean, take for that what it is. I mean, whatever. I'm okay to hold an unpopular opinion. That's all right. Right? Moving on to Globe and Mail politics. Ottawa urged to scrutinize China's mining activities in the Arctic in the wake of TMAC takeover. TMAC is a gold mine, and we're going to talk about gold right now. China's growing control over strategic minerals could be a threat to Canada's national security, a former head of CSIS says, and Ottawa should recognize this when it reviews a proposed takeover of the Arctic gold mine by Chinese state-owned conglomerate. Shandong Gold Mining Company Limited, one of the world's largest gold producers, is paying $207.4 million to buy by TMAC Resources Incorporated, the latest struggling Canadian junior miner to be swept up by a larger and better capitalized company. The deal will be among the first poured over by Ottawa after it announced in April that it would bring enhanced scrutiny to bear on acquisitions by foreign state-owned investors in a period where the COVID-19 pandemic has driven down the value of companies. China is the largest producer and consumer of gold in the world. Okay, hold on, let me get this straight. We're coming off of plus 55 plus days of lockdown. Companies across Canada are either holding their breath because of the costs they've accrued over the past 2 months, the past 50 odd days, and the zero revenue they've had if they were one of the businesses that couldn't do work. And construction and all sorts of industry, non-essential industry across Canada has been shut down. And now, right now, there's Chinese companies coming in and buying up national resources for a paltry amount of $207.4 million. Does anybody have like 207.355 million that I could borrow? You know, to buy the gold mine? We could crowdsource that, right? Come on, Canada. No. And so is that appropriate, right? To have China come in and buy a gold mine in Canada? And it's not like it's just this gold mine, and it's not like Canada's been really, really good stewards of our gold reserves, right? This is from February 11th, 2016. Canada sells off most of its gold reserves, and then a month later, March 4th, Ottawa sells off almost all its gold reserves, leaving 77 ounces or less. And we don't need that gold mine, right? We need the $207 million. Boom, economy, right? Inject that money right now. We need that. It seems, not so good, right? It seems not great. Back to the article. Chinese companies have not only been active buying up gold mines around the world, but Shandong Gold Group, the state-owned parent company, signed up in 2015 to back a national Beijing effort to stockpile the precious metal, which is considered one of the best hedges against economic volatility. Wouldn't it be great if we could, mine our own gold? No, sorry, it's not owned by us, so we can't. Okay, back to this. I think gold is pretty important for the world economy. China has enough of a grip on the world economy as it is, given the capital assets, so I would include gold, Mr. Fadden said. Governments should sit down, convene a bunch of experts, and talk to our allies about it. Mr. Fadden, who is also a national security advisor to Stephen Harper and Justin Trudeau, said there had been growing concerns within Canadian national security agencies about how China was carefully investing in Canadian companies so as to be beneath regulatory thresholds. Quote, there was worry that the Chinese seemed to be very knowledgeable about regulatory thresholds and were coming just underneath them. And, as is well known, Chinese corporations abroad are required to comply with Chinese government directives. Project Sidewinder, I talk about it a lot, but it's a thing, right? And back to this. It means basically that if you're a Chinese company, then you're affiliated and needing to play ball with the Chinese government. Okay, that's what Project Sidewinder is. And Project Sidewinder outlines how Chinese companies target key points in key industries, right? Fisheries and communications and video surveillance. And then they buy up the Canadian company. And then it has the facade of being a Canadian company, but really it's a Chinese company owned. And say you expand into the video surveillance category and you get a big national security contract that's a video surveillance contract. You need upgraded servers, you need all kind of security for that. And guess who you call? You call up the owner and you say, hey, owner, I need an expansion. I need to spend this much money to get those servers. And he says, you know what? I know a guy, don't worry about it. We'll set up the servers here. No problems, right? And then it gets all set up and you make a lot of money. And then all of a sudden you got video surveillance of sensitive areas being sent directly to China, right? Okay, so this is a problem. And they're very knowledgeable, being very knowledgeable about regulatory thresholds and just coming underneath them. Do you know what that made me think of? Remember Raj Grewal? Here's 2018, November 27th, 2018. Raj Grewal queried federal agencies on ability to probe money laundering. He was asking, exactly how much do you guys track? And like, above that, you don't track that? No? Okay. On a number of occasions, Mr. Grewal, this is the article, Globe and Mail's reporting, Mr. Grewal wondered whether the $10,000 limit was still appropriate or should be adjusted to keep up with inflation. Should it be raised? We should raise it to keep up with inflation. 15,000, 20,000, back to this. As well as what would trigger an investigation of someone who had exceeded the limit and whether individuals know if they're under investigation. Quote, how many resources does FinTrack have to go after each little $10,000 transaction? If I'm money laundering, I'm not doing transactions in the millions to catch attention. I'm doing them in the 10, 15 limit to get away with it, Mr. Grewal said on February 8th. Right? So the patterns here just seem eerie, seem similar, don't they? They know about the thresholds. I mean, and not that it's necessarily secret. FinTrack has a website. You can see thresholds. I mean, even in the newspaper, you can see the thresholds, right? But at the same time, when those thresholds are being used to exploit and to being used as a loophole, then shouldn't those things be looked at? When gold is being stockpiled by other countries and we're selling gold mines at unbelievably cheap rates to countries that are stockpiling gold, well, we have none. Does this seem like we're hedging against a potential economic disaster, or does this seem like we're doubling down and tripling down on borrowing with not much of a hedge left to help if things go sideways, right? Well, what do you have? And I mean, we have natural resources. We're a very rich country. But if we have to put our oil in a tanker and go down around the Panama Canal and up to, like, from BC down around the Panama Canal, which is a very far distance, and then all the way back up, crossing all of South and North America, and then to come back up to Nova Scotia or New Brunswick, to have the oil refined, that's insanity. That's crazy. But try and get a pipeline built. That's what's happening. They're doing that with Irving Oil right now. They're trying to ship it from Alberta to BC, put it on the tanker around the Panama Canal and into New Brunswick. Canadian oil, everybody. It's just $19 a liter. It doesn't make any sense. It's crazy. It's crazy. And yet, here we are. What's the limit again? Let's raise it to 15,000, just so it's easier to get that money done. Just so it's easier to sell off the gold mines, right? So what's going on? I don't know, but it seems like Ottawa, the Trudeau administration, is making concerted efforts to put into place, I don't know, but certainly not economic stability, certainly not that. And it seems like the news is more interested in Andrew Scheer's American citizenship than they are in what the opposition can do to make sure that Canadians are getting the best of this government, right? Which is what the opposition is supposed to do. The opposition are not usually to be seen as racist, to be ignored. Usually the opposition represents another large majority of Canadians, a large voting bloc that possibly the governing people should be listening to, regardless of whether they agree with them or disagree with them, right? You can't take 40% of your population, you can't take 50% of your population and say, there's the deplorables, right? It doesn't work that way. Look at what happened in the United States. And I like Trump. I think he's handling things well, but look at the media. Look at the gong show that's coming out of there, right? It's happening here, just to a lesser degree. And Canadians don't, well, that's not true. I've seen some younger leftist Canadians who are just as vocal and who are just as feisty, who are willing to get into it in a similar way as their American counterparts. I was going to say Canadians don't fight that way usually, but I've seen the protests at the universities. I've seen the kids who are doing that these days, and so maybe there's been a shift. Maybe there's been a change in that, but Canadians who are like 30 plus don't fight that way, right? Like they don't do that. That's not how they show their displeasure. They just disengage, right? That's what Canadians do. It's weird. They just stop giving you their attention. It's strange. But now things are shifting because the media is telling them, go out and punch a Nazi, go out and, call your uncle out if he's pushing bad talking points about COVID-19 or whatever. I've seen all of these things. They're basically coaching people on how to confront people. And it's really strange because like I said, Canadians don't usually do that, or older than 30-year-old Canadians don't usually do that. Confrontation is not in the Canadian They don't do that. We don't do that. So it's interesting to watch because maybe that's changing, and maybe that's not so good. But why is our media so distracted? Why are we selling off our resources? Why are we selling off our resources in the middle of a pandemic where companies have been given zero chance? At this point, you might be looking at not having any kind of return on your mine for a year or two, right? That might sound like a good deal. I don't know. And it might be a good deal for that mine. I'm not sure. I'm not a mine appraiser, but it seems like a bad idea to sell it to China, especially within context of what's been going on. From everything with regard to the pandemic and before, the two Michaels, the trade relationship, all of it. It doesn't make any sense to do this. And yet here we stand, not making any sense and holding the leader of the opposition accountable for his American citizenship. Weird. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. They all just fell out of my head there for a minute. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.